SandyHookFacts.com. I'm your host, C.W. Wade. So behind the scenes, there's been a little mini investigation going on, and Wolfgang is aware of it, and that concerns his statement that he is a certified fire inspector. We'll get to that in a minute. It took me a little while to decide to do this video. There comes a point when you've debunked a guy so thoroughly, proven him incorrect with the report, catching him saying things that are not true, embellishing upon his resume, such as the most recent fiasco when he claimed to be the personal driver for Martin Luther King, driving him from a protest, keeping him safe. So that's his words. That's what he wrote. But at some point, you just start to wonder, how much documentation does someone need to see what another guy is doing? And I think we're at that point, but and I get asked, well, what about this? And they ask about Sandy Hook. A lot of these videos are not about Sandy Hook per se. As far as I'm concerned, I've looked into every hoaxer claim. I think seen just about all the videos, certainly all the overall claims. And there's literally no merit whatsoever to any arguments they put forth. It's all bullcrap. They can't get any... They just don't have any real evidence. We're at 3 years. They call every single high-profile shooting a hoax. There's got to be, hundreds of thousands of witnesses to these alleged hoaxes, and they don't have even so much as a single whisper of a witness. That's not possible. They don't have any real evidence. So, show me something that still needs to be debunked. If it has any merit whatsoever, or is interesting, or really needs to be debunked, then I'll do that. But I haven't seen anything. So why keep publishing this about Wolfgang? Well, what you don't understand is that, I guess it's fair to say that I'm interested in the Sandy Hook shooting, and I have the free speech right to talk about it, and I have the free speech right to debunk others who make false claims. But the difference between Wolfgang and everybody out there is he sues you if you prove him wrong, and that's because he is making a lot of money. He is raising a lot of money on Sandy Hook. And so if you prove him wrong, then he thinks that basically part of his cost of doing business is to shut you up. And so he will go after you. He will either threaten to sue you, or he will actually sue you. He has a credible threat of lawsuit. So it's very important to document when Wolfgang makes blatantly false statements and is out there raising money and suing other people, especially if it ever gets very far and you start looking at attorney fees and such, and you can prove what he's doing, you can recover attorney fees, and it can be significant for his claims. So, in other words, if he's out there saying all these outrageous things, and of course, obviously, any case he brings is ultimately going to get dismissed, there's no way Wolfgang's going to ever prevail in a court of law. I mean, he's a public figure. He does a lot of international broadcasts. He publishes his own show called the Sandy Hook Justice Report. He has websites. He's widely published on newspapers, videos. He's been mentioned in Newsweek, Washington Times, I think, definitely a bunch of Florida newspapers. This guy is a big-time public figure. So if he maliciously goes after someone trying to silence them, then the judge is going to factor that in when she is deciding to award attorney fees. And so at a minimum, it's important to document when Wolfgang says false things. And so all that being said, this episode is going to be about Wolfgang's claim that he is a certified fire inspector. If you go to rinse.com, you can find fairly easily an FOIA request that Wolfgang sent to the fire marshal of Sandy Hook, Chief Bill Halstead. And Wolfgang is basically asking for copies of the annual fire inspections. And Wolfgang says to him, so this is one of his official claims, as he's making a legal request to a fire marshal. I was also a certified fire inspector when I was director of risk management, and we followed the fire codes by not allowing those types of bathrooms to have door locks, requiring only key entry. So to a fire marshal in the state of Connecticut, Wolfgang is claiming to have been a certified fire inspector, and based on that knowledge, he is formulating a request. So he's using his background to bolster his need or his experience to obtain some request. I don't know why he can't just say, I would like a copy of your fire inspection reports, and I don't know what all they have in that regard, but he feels the need that he needs to justify certify himself, and he will add to himself some credentials. So his credentials today are Certified Fire Inspector when I was Director of Risk Management. Okay, for those that don't know, a certified fire inspector is a real position. It's a real job. You take classes and you have experience. When he says he was a certified fire inspector, he's saying that he's certified. All right, and they do the certification through the state of Florida. Probably every state has it this way. Certified fire inspectors are licensed through the state, and they are in fact certified. So you can go to Florida's website and you can click on a few links and you can find a certified fire inspector safety requirements of what it takes to get that certification. So you need certain training and certain courses to get the certified fire inspection certificate. So this is not like Wolfgang's FEMA certificate that takes a couple hours that you just take a quick online course and they mail you a certificate. That's his FEMA certification. To be a certified fire inspector would require him to actually go through the certification process. Now, fire inspectors are also covered by Florida statutes. There's in fact even criminal penalties. It's a felony to impersonate a fire inspector at some level. There's some criteria for that. Now, within the state of Florida, if you do in fact impersonate a fire inspector, you can be charged with a felony. So I did a FOIA request of the state of Florida, and I wanted to know if they had any records involving training or certification of Wolfgang Halbig. If he had any training at all from this group, the Bureau of Fire Standards and Training. And so I got back an email, and they said the Bureau of Fire Standards and Training, Florida State Fire College, was unable to locate any records referencing Wolfgang Halbig. If you should have any further questions, feel free to contact our office. Wolfgang wants to prove he's a fire inspector, that a certified fire inspector. Then let's see his certification and who gave it to him, and I will go check that out. So Wolfgang caught wind that I had done a FOIA request and found out he's not a certified fire inspector. So he went on his show. He broadcasts his own show, the Sandy Hook Justice Report, and he wanted to explain that. Let's take a listen to what Wolfgang says to explain his lack of certification through the state of Florida as a fire inspector.
As far as fire safety certification, where did that originate from?
That came out of Lake County, Florida.
Okay.
And you know what? I think we need to post all of the fire inspections. That came out of Lake County, Florida.
Okay.
That came out of Lake County, Florida.
Okay, so he's saying his fire certification came from Lake County, Florida. So if you recall in the email, the original email, he says that when he was a risk manager, so we can look at Wolfgang's posted resume. This is also off of rinse.com, and he publishes this pretty freely. This is pretty easy to find on other places. So when he was with Lake County Public Schools, he was a risk manager from 2005 to 2009. And when I was reading that, I noticed he also claims to be a state of Florida certified claims adjuster. So that's interesting. So we'll look at that in just a minute. He claimed that when he was a risk manager, he got his certification through Lake County, Florida. So obviously Wolfgang is playing word games. He said he was a certified fire inspector. By code, by Florida code, certified fire inspectors are certified through the state of Florida, through the website that I showed you, and that's a certified fire inspector. So nonetheless, on the off chance that Lake County has gone rogue and instituted their own laws governing certified fire inspector, I went ahead and did a FOIA request to Lake County Schools, and what I wanted to know is if he was a fire inspector, a certified fire inspector. And this is what they wrote back. Our HR department checked Mr. Halbig's personnel file and did not find documentation that referenced the fire safety inspector certification. They also checked the risk manager job description, and it does not show fire inspector certification as a requirement for that position. So there would be no reason for us to request and file proof of certification. So it wasn't even part of his job. Now, if you can produce some fire inspection certificate from when he was a risk manager, that's something entirely different than claiming that you're a certified fire inspector. Anyway, that's another claim he's making, and I don't know how he's going to, get around this one. Either you're a certified fire inspector and you're complying with Florida code as a certified fire inspector and you're licensed through Florida, or you're not. So you don't make those claims if you're not. It's pretty much that simple. You don't need to make that claim. You don't even need to make that claim to make a FOIA request. So while we were at it, he also had claimed to be a claims adjuster, a state of Florida claims adjuster, just in case he wants to say he was a Lake County claims adjuster. So this one, I have not done what I would say a diligent level of research, such as FOIA requests and such, to find out for sure whether or not he is a claims adjuster. But I did run a license search, which is available to anyone online, and it does not show any record for Wolfgang Halbig. So, like I said, I wouldn't at this point say that he's making a blatantly false claim. If he wants to support that he's a state of Florida claims adjuster, then I would certainly be interested to see that. Other than that, I don't know. Could be just another false claim by Wolfgang, like claiming he's a certified fire inspector or claiming that he was Martin Luther King's driver and these type of things. So we still never found any evidence he was at Columbine. He's never produced any evidence he was at Columbine. He's never demonstrated even an abnormal level of knowledge. Whatever he talks about is freely available to anyone online. Completely wrong about the FBI report for Columbine and several other things, as I've shown in other videos. We've never seen proof of his duties as a custom inspector or any certifications involving that. Anyway, I don't see, according to Florida and according to Lake County, where Wolfgang Halbig is a certified fire inspector. So, I mean, don't show me some fire inspection document that may have occurred while you were sitting in your desk as a risk manager. But, you know, if you want to show your certification as a certified fire inspector, and especially one that complies with the state of Florida code, the law of the state of Florida, then I would be very interested to see that. Till then, I'll say that he is making yet another false claim. That's what it appears. Okay, so that'll do it for this one. This is C.W. Wade, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.